All right, welcome. Today, we are diving into a business model that pretty much throws the standard rulebook right out the window. It's a fascinating system designed to do just one thing: turn a person who's just maybe interested into a definite yes. So let's pull back the curtain and see how this thing actually works.
You know this problem. It happens to almost every online business, right? You get someone who's interested enough to sign up, they create an account, and then crickets. They just vanish before making that first all-important payment. So how do you get them back? How do you re-engage them without being annoying? Well, the system we're looking at today has a surprisingly human answer to that question.
Okay, so let's set the stage here. We've got a company with a whole list of potential customers, or players, as the training material calls them. Now, these aren't strangers off the street. They've already gone through the trouble of signing up. The challenge is crystal clear. How do you get them to close that gap between just being curious and actually putting money down?
And this, right here, is the core mission. The goal isn't about cold calling or trying to find new business out of thin air. Nope. It's all about working with this list of what you'd call warm leads. The entire job is to personally reach out and, sort of hold their hand through that first deposit, turning them from a name on a list into a real active customer.
So now let's talk about the who, because this whole system, it doesn't rely on automated emails or fancy pop-up ads. It all hinges on a real, live human being, the agent. They are the absolute key, the person at the very heart of this entire strategy. Without them, none of this works.
When you break it down, the relationship is actually pretty simple. You've got three main parties in this little dance. First, you have the company, which provides the software and that list of registered users. Then you have the agent. They're the one on the ground, making the calls. And finally, you have the player, who is the potential customer they're trying to bring on board.
Okay, now take a look at what the agent needs to get started. CRM access, yeah, that makes sense. A separate work SIM card, totally logical. But a personal bank card for transactions? Whoa, hold on. That right there is our first big clue that this is not your typical customer service gig. It points to a whole different kind of system, one that's built on direct personal interaction.
So our agent is all geared up. Now let's dive into their main tool, the CRM. That stands for Customer Relationship Management, and it's basically the digital brain of this whole operation. We're going to walk through what they do every single day, and this comes straight from the actual training guides. The day-to-day process is just beautifully simple. The agent logs in, they see a list of players ready to be called. Each one is a task. They click to accept a task, which is smart because it locks it so no one else calls the same person. They make the call, and then, and this is super important, they log what happened. It's just a clean, efficient loop over and over again. And here's a great little insider tip right from the training manual. A new agent might log in, see an empty list under scheduled, and think, oh no, there's nothing to do. But the secret is this little eye icon. You just click it to switch the view over to available, and boom, there's the whole list of people just waiting for a call. Now, to make sure every customer gets the same professional experience, agents are actually given a script. And this quote from the training really tells you everything about the approach. It's direct, it's polite, and it immediately shows respect for the customer's time. This isn't some high-pressure sales pitch. It's designed to feel like a helpful professional check-in. Okay, so the call is done. The agent's final job is to log what happened. And this last step is absolutely critical. They just pick from a simple menu: success if the player is on board, not responding if they couldn't get a hold of them, or opted out if the person says, hey, please don't call me again. This keeps the database clean, and more importantly, it respects the customer's wishes. So we've seen the people and we've seen the process. But now we get to the part of this that, I'm not going to lie, I had to read twice to believe it. This is where the model gets really unique, and it completely changes the entire relationship between the customer, the agent, and the company. So here's the million-dollar question. The agent has a great call. The customer says, I'm in. How do they actually pay? You'd think there would be a big Pay Now button in the software or a link to a website, right? But if you look, there's nothing like that anywhere. So what gives? And this slide right here, this explains everything. Normally, you pay a company through some secure online gateway, and the money goes from you to them. But in this system, the flow is totally different. The player sends the money directly to the agent's personal bank account. The agent then makes sure that amount gets credited to the player's account with the company. It's a person-to-person transaction, a human payment layer that sits right in the middle. And if you needed any more proof of how personal this is, just look at the payment methods. We're talking direct bank transfers to the agent's card. They even list specific local services like Ooze Card or Humo.
Mobile payment apps are an option. And get this, even cash is on the table if the agent and the player happen to live in the same city. Just wow.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. Who in their right mind would trust this? It's a huge question, right? Well, the system has a couple of clever ways to build that trust. First, agents have to use their real name and their Telegram username so they feel like an accountable person, not some anonymous bot. And second, they can send the customer an official partner verification link that proves they're a legit representative of the company.
So we've looked at the challenge, the people, the software, and that really wild payment system. Let's just take a step back and put all these pieces together to see what this operational model really is. This table really sums it all up perfectly. The trust isn't built by a fancy, secure website. It's built on a direct, one-on-one conversation. The payments completely bypass traditional methods and instead use peer-to-peer transfers. The technology, that CRM, it's only there to manage the people, not the money. And all of this means the agent is so much more than a salesperson. They're like a personal manager, a concierge, and a human payment processor, all rolled into one.
And all of this leaves us with one massive final question. On the one hand, you could see this system as creating an incredible personal level of service. It might be brilliant in places where people don't really trust online payment systems. But on the other hand, man, it puts a ton of responsibility and trust on these individual agents. So what are we looking at? Is this a glimpse into the future of customer relationships, or is it just a really risky shortcut? It's definitely something to think about.